So, let us talk about the Locarno Treaty. Now, the Locarno Treaty was a series of economical and military agreements made between France, Belgium, Italy, Great Britain, Germany, Poland, and Czechoslovakia. Whew, I got the entire list right. What it practically was kind of a revival of the Versailles Treaty on better terms for Germany. Now, if you don't know this, the Versailles Treaty was the treaty that was signed by the victors of the Second World War that pretty much just said, fuck you, Germany, in a very long way. There are some specific events that lead up to the necessity of the Locarno Treaty. The most prominent one is the Ruhr crisis. For a long time, there have been tensions between the Germans and the French. They've been in several wars, so they are kind of afraid of each other. And especially since Germany was so badly treated by the victors, which included France, victors of the First World War, that is, they were afraid that Germany would rise to power and would rise up from the ashes that they were in economically and fight back against France. So what they did was they preemptively occupied an area. They occupied the Ruhr area. Everyone else is also kind of afraid of Germany because Germany has shown some tendencies to be very, very extreme when it comes to their war policy. Considering that this is in the wake of the First World War, everyone is afraid, especially since they think Germany is crazy. So when France and Belgium move into this Ruhr area, everybody kind of flips out, excluding Germany. Because up until this point, Germany has been kind of defying the treaty, the Versailles Treaty. But they've started to realize that maybe they should play a little bit of ball. Because they don't actually stand a chance of winning, just everyone's afraid of a war. The Chancellor of Germany at the time, who was named Gustav Stresemann, suggested that maybe Germany should just, try to play things a little cool. But, however, because France invaded Ruhr, France has broken international law, because Ruhr was demilitarized according to the Versailles Treaty. There was supposed to be no arms there. This was actually to make Germany weak, so they wouldn't be able to attack France very easily. But they essentially justified Germany in attacking them, which was a very scary situation for everyone. So what happened was, the League of Nations, which is the predecessor to the UN, gave Germany a bone. You can join the League of Nations if you sign this contract. Now, this contract, meaning the Locarno Treaty, it detailed that Germany and Belgium and France were all to, at all times, respect the borders that were set in the Versailles Treaty. Any signs of conflict or any use of force was not to be accepted by the League of Nations. It was specifically stated that if this happened, however, Great Britain and Italy would attack. Now, Great Britain and Italy are kind of the last big militaries in Europe after the First World War. They were both damaged, of course. Everyone in Europe was damaged, but they were a real threat to everyone. The western borders of Germany is now secured. That's the idea. And also, being a part of the League of Nations, Germany would have to respect the League of Nations rules, which are pretty much the same as the UN. If you attack another UN country, the entire UN intervenes. So the French formed an alliance with Poland and Czechoslovakia, and that connection becomes important because in the Locarno treaties, and this is one of the huge criticisms of the Locarno treaties, the eastern borders of Germany was not secured. This allowed Hitler to exploit it as a loophole in the League of Nations system, meaning that he could start the Second World War, but when he did so, everyone attacked because France had allies, and when France attacked, these allies were bound to join in, and you see how this goes, right? And this, of course, ultimately caused the destruction of the League of Nations and the creation of the UN. Now, I'm thinking to maybe for next week do a little bit of a skip-like video. Maybe next week or the week after that, depending on when I get my camera. See, foreshadowing. When I go into something called the Dawes Plan and how that helped solve economic troubles after World War I. Yeah, I don't know. Thoughts on that? Anyone? You know what? I want to throw a challenge out there because I feel I'm kind of slacking behind in that entire area. I want you all to try to think about the things in your culture that could not be understood from the outside. You probably couldn't hear me, but last time I mentioned this as a part of how ethnicity works and how cultures work. They cannot be understood from the outside. Ever. Doesn't work at all. Just try to keep a conscious mind. Try to be very conscious about this, because there are probably several things about your life that if you don't actively think about this, you will assume that everyone else understands around you, and they don't, which is interesting, and it will make your life exciting. I promise.